Here.
Weber. Allen. Here. Ambrose.
Here.
Holt.
Here.
Mays. Weller.
Here. Everybody has the agenda, motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Vicky, second, Mays, Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of minutes. Holt, motion, seconded by Weller. All in favor? Aye. Good. Monthly departmental report, it was distributed, Don? Go ahead.
The Livingston County Public Safety Complex, we replaced one of the domestic hot water mixing valves for the female section of jail. This is one of 4. We've got one more to replace, and they'll probably maybe do that next month. And after trying all the other repairs, the staff replaced an H unit of stainless steel toilet with a spare unit we had stored in the basement. I don't know, we couldn't get that thing to flush. We tried everything. But anyway, we had one left over from when the building was built, and we installed that and everything's fine. The elevator failed at the public safety complex with the person in it. The staff was able to get it going and get the occupant out. The elevator was repaired by Otis Elevator. Someone had hit the back doors coming in from the detective bay and damaged some contacts and rollers up in the upper part of that door section. Master control and booking door locks and latches were repaired. Jail laundry dryer number 3 failed to heat and was repaired by custom care equipment. Found a bad wire on the temperature sensor. Ice machine in the kitchen failed to make ice and was repaired by XL Mechanical. Removed and repaired cameras in special management and outdoor rec area. Staff replaced 2 cameras in the medical hallway. Lint fighters cleaned all the dryers and dryer vents in the jail laundry. Staff repaired water leak in the eye wash station in Sallyport. Augured sewer drains in N unit and O unit in special management 2. Staff repaired locks on the pass-through door, feeding door 4J unit. Staff replaced several ballast and the light fixtures. We're still waiting for the septic tank pump at the public safety complex. I have set up the water softeners for repair and upgrade in the safety complex. During the regeneration stage, it would not shut down. And we got a letter from the water company saying it was, they could tell we were using excessive water, and this was a big part of it. At the historic courthouse, a new air conditioner for the vault has been installed at the county clerk's office. The foundation wall at that section of the historic courthouse is 27 inches thick. All Livingston County maintenance staff and a couple of day teams helped move and disassemble the roller file system from the old Regions Bank building to the public safety complex basement. And we have issues out at the H&E building right now with the sewer line running out. We think there's a blockage out in the parking lot somewhere. We got Pope Joy's coming out with a camera. We're going to run a camera down through the line and find out exactly where it's at and decide what we're going to do then.
Is that on the north side of the building down? Is that running north?
Yep.
I thought it did.
We only had to shut down one toilet, so the rest of the building is...
Is it clear over to the west side, or where does it run through the parking lot at?
Well, there's a manhole down toward the west, and there's no one toward the east.
One on the
Yeah, and I think the one they augured to, well, the city came out also with their truck, and they used a jet system in there, and they ran from both manholes. They ran in quite a ways, like 35 feet, and I don't know that they actually found anything, but that's as far as they could get. And then the plumbers run an auger probably that far from inside the building, and they ran into something they said really hard. It was kind of muddy like. And anyway, when I left, they were going to get the cameras. I thought they were coming back today to do it, but the camera might have been out somewhere else. But, so I'll know more tomorrow. But
Considering the age of the building, unless those lines have been replaced, I doubt they have.
well,
It's old clay tile laid end to end, and
It's been replaced with plastic from the inside of the building to the wall going out, but anything outside is all what you
It's old
said.
clay and
Yeah.
they rot and collapse.
Yep.
I don't remember us ever doing it.
It's coded the right way.
Is, like that toilet that you guys replaced out, since that was our probably one only spare,
No, I've got, well, there's several configurations in those little stainless steel toilets, I mean, but I've got, I think one more like that configuration, and I don't know, when they built the building, they had, asked 10% extra on all parts and everything like that, and we had 10% of those toilets.
good.
I know for sure there's one more like that one. I'd have to pull the boxes open and check the other ones.
So we do keep a backup for whichever model might go down next.
Right now I have, yeah.
Good idea.
But this is the first one in all time. What I think happened is there's shut-offs on them and they have a rubber seal around them. And that seal comes apart and gets up into the flush valve. Well, if it gets past that flush valve, it gets down into the toilet and it starts plugging everything out. There's no way to get in there to clean them out. There's the way the toilets are made.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of where we're at with that, so. That's pretty much what I have.
The only other thing I just would comment, I think, well, all of you should know. We had a special meeting last week, continuation of the board meeting last month to try to further resolution on what we should do as far as the H&E building. Long story short, through a series of motions and one thing and another, and came down, the final decision was to authorize Farnsworth to do what they refer to as a schematic. Different ones have asked me what that is. Bottom line is, it's a floor plan that we lay people can understand. I mean, it's not full-blown architectural drawings to bid to and that sort of thing. But it'll give us a look at what the actual footprint, rooms, and that sort of look like. The only other thing, because really that's behind us, that I would say, I've had board members, I've had people on the street and others ask about the consideration of other buildings to remodel. And I've consistently said, and I feel like I gotta continue to say, I'm not comfortable identifying what they are or the exact reasons for not considering them or knock them out of consideration. It's not I'm trying to hide anything. I'll be glad to share it with any board member or any interested party, and quite frankly, with a member of the general public if I feel like I can have their confidence. But it's things like the building's not for sale, and they really don't want that out there because, you know, it can be damaging to their business. Now, as one said to me, if the price was right, I'd consider it. It's some of my, I'll take one for example, the Driscoll building. That was one of the earlier ones somebody put on the table. Well, we checked into it and it was sort of for sale, but somebody had options, and the owner at that time didn't want us, you know, putting something out publicly. Well, now it's, I mean, the signs are up. Our AutoZone, some O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I think there's still a portion of that may be under negotiation. So it's just trying to be, I guess, respectful of owners. Had one come to me last week after the meeting, last week, via one of the board members. Apparently they didn't know who to contact, and that board member forwarded it to me. And I went back and explained to them, I thought pretty simple, way too few square feet. They came back with, well, you put a second or third story, you know, that sort of thing. Well, there were other reasons that that site didn't work. I explained that and the person thanked me. I don't think that person wants to know, the general public to know the building's for sale. It's not listed and that sort of thing. So like I said, any board member or any responsible person, I'll be glad to talk about any and all of those. I don't know, may come a time where we'll divulge all of them, but that said, I don't know if the bills have been around, is there anything?
But back to the health and education bill, I'm still stuck on this. I'm confused, I thought the special meeting was gonna be like a question and answer. And sometimes on the agenda, it says action item, and I was not, at all aware that we were gonna vote on something that night. I thought it was just to answer questions and get information out to people.
Well, that's why the former meeting was continued, because there were still some questions out there that we didn't have good answers for. But it was really a carryover from the previous meeting, and the intent was, I guess, at the
We
previous.
didn't adjourn Thursday night?
You did.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
not
we,
gonna be a carryover,
well,
it was a new meeting.
It was a special meeting.
yeah, it was a special meeting, but the intent was to continue that discussion, and the end result was to be,
So then how did we vote?
to make a decision.
It doesn't have to say action on there,
Okay.
anytime you have those things. I mean, I do that, trying to let you know what to expect and what to plan for, if there's something on there that, but when we do a special meeting, it's just for that topic, so that's why. I
Yeah.
didn't really think to put action behind it, I guess. Yeah, no.
Well,
Just- I'm just kind of wondering if some of the members that didn't come didn't realize that we were voting on something. I mean, 6
Well-
hours.
Or couldn't be there, to spend $400,000, couldn't it have waited till the regular board meeting to vote on that, to make sure everybody got a say? Because again, I don't think people knew they were gonna vote. And, I've just gotten a lot of questions about that, and that shouldn't, spending $400,000 be a vote of the whole board rather than just
Well, the
some.
$400,000 is for, I think the way that was, I don't know exactly the words, that was design fees. The schematic's not gonna cost us $400,000. That's for full-blown design work.
It'll cost us up to 27,000.
We haven't got the thing, but.
Yeah, I think in that range, yeah. Yeah.
When do we get that bill after?
When will we get that bill? When they're done, I would assume.
That's, I mean, after. We got up to 50,000 for all this, up until you get to phase 4, right?
Okay.
Well,
I mean,
just stating it for people.
that's a normal progress of that sort of thing. Although, not sure you always do schematics, usually you authorize design.
Okay, another question, since I'm new. Some people said, why didn't this go through finance first? And, have them pass judgment on it and stuff.
Well, finance already allocated 50,000 in the budget for
Yeah,
H
I
and E
mean-
building, so it's
Oh,
in
they
there.
did.
It's-
And we're within that 50,000. Okay, when we go over that 50,000, then we're into the 400,000.
It would have to be approved, like anything that's approved by the board, once it's approved by the board, it doesn't go back to finance. But if it's approved by the board, then it moves forward, but generally speaking, we'll allocate where the money is to come from ahead of time. Does that make sense?
If the next, after the schematic, if we and the users approve, this is what we want to build, then that money, that allocation will be approved by the finance committee and the board. Yeah.
So it really wasn't 400,000.
No.
No. That's, I don't have it with me, I'm not sure of the wording, but that's for, if we had said, okay, we don't want to mess around with schematic, we're ready to move forward, we want you to design a building. That design and all the stuff that goes with architects, some people have asked me why that amount. It's actually pretty standard among architects. It's usually a percentage of the entire project or the construction. That's typically the way architects price themselves. And I think from one architect to another, those are pretty standard fees. And there'll be a
AIA
No.
agreement?
Yeah, there's a standard architectural agreement that everybody uses. And that'll be the time that that one is brought forward. That spells out how it's broken down. We've still got, if we move on, we've still got some other, I guess, fundamental decisions. For instance, do we use an architect to design and then, I'm not sure of the right term here, to oversee the project? In other words, make sure it's built to plan? That's not unusual. Or do we go to a separate firm, a construction management firm, which we did with the Law and Justice Center? Usually that's on bigger projects. I'm not sure where the dividing line is between smaller and bigger. I've got some feelings, but I'm gonna wait till we're at that point, we'll have that discussion. And then some of the details in terms of the building itself, you know, is it a pre-engineered building, is it a, again, please, I don't know the right term, scratch built, stick built. You know, and we'll get, and believe me, we'll get into all the discussions, should it be a flat roof or a pitched roof? I mean, I'm saying somewhat lighthearted because we got into those discussions and others that were far too much in detail, from my opinion, on the Law and Justice. I always tell people, we're not engineers, we're not architects. We gotta hire the right people and tell them, give them our opinions. But,
Okay, can you answer one more question?
Yeah.
People
No.
ask me, why now? Why, some people from on the county board, to people who work there, to the general public, feel this is kind of rushed. So,
well, okay, go ahead, Bob.
Linda, I've been listening to this for over 35 years. We've been looking at trying to do something with that building. We have patched it and patched it and patched it. And this is not the first time or the first set of board members that this has come up in front of. It's been going on for decades.
I've been on the
We've
board,
known for a long time, we have a problem out there.
say Bob, 6 years, Marty Fannin, no, Bob, he's in his first term. Couple years, Marty Fannin for 4 years, Bill Fairfield, last 2. And I think it was under Bill's administration when we first started having those planning sessions, annual planning sessions. And that's always been something that's identified. I don't know why it keeps, and you know what I tell people? After, I guess the county decided they need to build a new jail, and they had a lot of help from the state of Illinois for several years saying you are so deficient that, I don't know if they ever threatened to shut them down, but
They did.
it was 20 years before they finally pulled the trigger and built the jail.
See, when Bob Jones was sheriff, I can't count the number of times that Sheriff Jones and Jim Muir and Maury Pratt and myself, and a couple of times Dave Bailey, Stan Weber, Carl Borncastle, we made so many trip after trip after trip down to Springfield, begging and pleading to let us get by one more year. Let us get by one more year. And then in the mid-80s, I think it was, we built that addition to the jail. And by the time we got it done, it was outdated and didn't qualify. Well, it was a Band-Aid we put on that to get by for a while. And I have to admit, the jail took priority over the H&E building. We knew we were in trouble. We had to do something. So we went with the jail first. But we've been dealing with that building out there a long time.
To my knowledge, it's been on the agenda for the 12 years I've been on the board. And, you know, they did a new roof. They looked at the heating system is, they run the boiler and the air conditioner at the same time because they can't control it. So So they were gonna spend a lot of money, I think $2 million, to put in individual heat pumps in I think there's like five different ones that are gonna be sitting outside the building to have different areas where you can actually control the temperature. So it's been considered for a long time. It's just that it was kind of like a priority as far as what comes before it. Is it the next thing up, or do we do the jail, or do we do the restoration of this, or you know?
And sometimes we just sort of push aside the tough decisions, the big money decisions and things, and, you know, kick it down the road, because we're dealing with block sewers and,
We
so
did the
yeah,
same
I don't
thing.
know that there's any rush. Now, I understand the public, you know, because they don't read about our long-range plans, and they don't, you know, so I understand that. And I've had people out there question, you know, why all of a sudden, what's the urgency? Is the boiler blowing up? Because we've mentioned the boiler is old. It's old. Will it last another year? Probably. 5? Maybe 10. I don't know. For me, that's not the point. We've got a totally inadequate environment out there. You heard it. We aren't bringing in fresh air. We've got an unhealthy environment. We aren't bringing in fresh air. We've got mold. And to solve all of those problems in that building, as Bob said, is just more Band-Aids. That's only where I'm at. But I feel like we're moving in the right direction, and I hope if there's still lingering questions, you know, about more details and things, we'll try to get those answered.
We had the same statement made about the nursing home. I mean, we give away a couple $1 million each year to keep the thing operating, and when it came down to decision time, we're gonna do this or this, what's the rush? Wait a minute, we're not talking a rush here, we're talking about it's decision time. We've been at this for a long time, we've been discussing this for a long time, we've been putting up with it for a long time, and it's time to make a decision, so we made a decision.
Well, and as far as the nursing home, I wasn't on the county board, but I'm not sure I agreed with it at the time, but I think in retrospect, the county made a good decision to get out of the business.
But if you knew all the particulars about the nursing home, you'd have thought it was a heck of a good decision to get us out of it.
Yep, and I had faith that the county board was doing the right thing. And I talked to county board members, but
And for whatever it's worth,
John?
when we did do a big project called the jail, I firmly believe that it was done right. That jail was built on purpose to house inmates other than Livingston County. And I think Bill will attest that so far, it's been a success. And it's turned into a little, and not a big, it's not a landfill, but I think you guys have been doing $1 million a year, every year, if not more, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Like considerable more, yes.
yeah, I mean, it's way more than $1 million.
Yep, it's 2 last year.
And we're sitting good with that situation on the contacts and the way these guys work those contacts. I think it's gonna continue for a long time.
John, did you have something?
Yeah. So instead of the board, or, you know, us saying, you know, pitch roof or slope roof, why isn't this put out to like the architects and say, pitch your proposal? Either through a complete bid for the building or just for the plans, and then we have these different versions of the building from different people that meet our criteria and pick from those rather than us deciding things. So that's one.
We in a sense did that way back, I don't know when we decided to go down this study path, if you will, to study various options, including new building, renovating. You know, like to keep it somewhat familiar, and that came down to the Farnsworth Group, White, which at the time when I was given them, it was because they had done work in Grundy County you know, that's relatively close. And I was told they had an office in Morris, which turned out not to be. They're up in the suburbs, but they've done work close. There's really not any firms that do that kind of work in this general area, except one that did the Law and Justice Center. And we don't have all the issues resolved there. I'll leave it at that. So we did invite both Farnsworth and White to make proposals. And they did, and we chose Farnsworth. I don't know, I mean, first of all, their costs were less. I think either one's
Right, well, that would.
capable.
I mean, either one of them, the smart move would have been, do a zero cost study, right? To get the $6 million project.
Do what now?
For either person that pitched that proposal, had they known that proposal was gonna be moving forward with building the building, they would have both done a $0 bid, right?
No. I think we made it clear that, you know, the money was for the study,
Right.
but we planned on moving forward with whoever we chose. They both knew that, and they both have, yeah.
And then the other question is, much like the nursing program, can we get out of the health department business and give money or property or building to some other entity and just let them build a building?
Let someone else build it and then we lease it?
No, we get out of the home health, the healthcare program. All that stuff out there. What are we obligated for out there? What do we have to do?
Well, there's some, and frankly, there's a lot of debate going on right now about this home health care program. And when I talk to people, I have an opportunity to talk to them, there's really two pieces to that. There's for a better term, it's a nursing side. It's the one where the nurses go out. And then there's I call it the housekeeping side. This is the one that we've decided not to finance, because the county has been financing that piece. I think there's 2 full-time employees that go out and do, I guess, non-medical stuff. And I've talked to Melinda. This side is actually, it's not going away, and I don't think people understand that. People are going to get that health care side. That is supported by the tax levy that years ago the voters approved.
Right, but that's their own tax levy.
Pardon
And they
me?
have their own board, the board Vietti's on, they have their own board. Why
Yes.
are they making these decisions? They got them, I mean, it's their levy, they have their own board.
But their levy doesn't include capital. Never has.
Well, they gotta rent a building from somebody, their levy includes the rent for the building that they pay us every year.
Well, the rent, we call it rent, they pay us, it's intended to cover expenses, things like utilities and maintenance and things. And that will continue.
Right, so you're saying our obligation to them is to provide a building? And we also, and then they get their levy money and we don't give them any other money, right?
We have given them other money, and that's the stuff we're cutting back on.
Right, okay.
And I think there's a general feeling that long-term, they need to live with their levy. And mental health's the same way. There's a separate board, separate levy there. I think a lot of people don't understand. They think, well, you can just get rid of the health department. Well, there's certain things they do that are mandated by the state.
Right, I'm not saying shut it down, I'm just
No.
saying,
Well,
let the health department board handle this sort of stuff. And, you know, we're providing property or whatever.
yeah. County has always provided the buildings and recouped operational costs, if you will, although we don't. We gotta relook at that. You know,
How much does the levy bring in for that?
pardon me?
How much does the levy bring in for the mental health boards?
Well, mental health, I think, is over $1 million, but public health is not as much. I think they're only like at the 300 and some level. If you hold on, I'll tell you exactly what it is.
I guess it just seems odd to me that they have their own levy, their own board. They don't even really have people, they have Vietti that comes to our meetings and stuff. But it seems like we're taking a lot of, like, we're deciding slope roof or pitch roof, but they got their own board for that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know,
Well,
just.
as far
I'm
as
wondering why
when you
we're
get
so
into
bad.
actual, that kind of stuff, we've made it clear to the architects, we want you to work with the users,
Right,
you know. Now, they may not get involved in flat roof versus pitched roof, but as far as, you know, functionally, how the building's laid out, because they're the ones that have gotta use it.
because we're basically the landlord, providing a leased building to somebody, and they're specking out their lease by saying what they want for the space, and we're building it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's an unusual situation. That whole block out there, if you will, where the extension office, Futures, IHR, that's all county property.
Right,
And, always has been, when those levies were passed, I'm sure, you know, that was the understanding. I mean, we even had discussions, extension people came and, they asked what it would take to buy that. In other words, have it subdivided and buy that, one thing and another. Yeah. It's just, it doesn't work that way.
what you want, so, I mean, because we don't wanna be in the landlord business, right?
Pardon me?
We don't wanna be in the landlord business.
Well, in general, I would agree with you. That one's a unique one with a lot of history, and there's a complication with the two boards and one thing and another. I don't know how you'd ever unravel that. You'd go to referendum and lower their levy.
I'm not saying lower the levy or take.
I
the
understand.
service.
But I'm saying, that's the control we would have. I mean, I guess we could say we're gonna stop providing you building, but
Well, I'm saying we're providing them a service, but yet here we are defining the service, which is the building.
well,
I mean, usually like, say, our business, we go to lease a space from somebody. You sign a thing for 10 years or however many years, and you give them the design you want. Your designer says, here's and then the owner of the building renovates it to that. You maybe go back and forth a little bit, and then the building is built, and then you pay your payments.
and I think maybe not to the total extent, but there again, the mental health, public health people, farmers have to understand this. They're the ones that are gonna define the footprint and the rooms and the organization. Now, I will also tell you, both Melinda and Chris understand this, the marching orders we, the county, gave to both firms when we were considering this, we said, we don't want you to go out there and say, what do you want? We want this to be as compact, i.e. less expensive construction as possible. And they understand that. As a matter of fact, there was a study done 10 years ago or something where we did do that. And now I'm really exaggerating, but everybody had their own office. There were more conference rooms and, you know, I mean, they said, what do you want? Maybe to some extent we got caught up in that with the Law and Justice Center, because there's several empty desks and everything else over there. But this is going to be as, I don't want to say as cheap, but it's going to be as efficient a design as we can possibly have.
But, okay, and I'll stop on this, but couldn't, like, much like the 911 board, couldn't you just say, here, we got 4 million, take the 4 million, we'll deed you that property, and now the health board that has its own levy can then build what building they want for that budget, more or less, and then we're out of the health department business.
Well, they'd be building it on our property.
What's that?
They'd be building it on our property. It's like IHR. The county did not build those buildings or those expansions.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying.
IHR found that money. Now, it's different in that they don't have a levy.
Right,
But they built them on our property and then dedicated the buildings to the county.
right. So the county's thing would be.
And we provide services, and they pay they pay a fee, we gotta quit calling it rent, because, but they pay a fee for those services. And I don't know of any way, I understand your concern, I understand where, I don't know of any way to structurally change that kind of an arrangement. I guess that's the end result.
Would it be worth
Anything
investigating?
else? I'm sorry?
Would it be worth investigating?
Uh,
I mean, they would maintain it, not us. It would, I mean, it would get rid of a whole department of the county.
It's an idea.
You're talking about the separation of the entire department?
Much like the 911 board.
They would never be able to survive that way. And the reason why is because in addition to their levies, they get a lot of their other services from the county, such as their insurance, not health insurance, but their liability insurance. Also, their IMRF expenses are paid out of the IMRF fund. Their levy would not be sufficient in order to pay all the expenses that are associated with the social service.
Well, and you can try to compare it with the 911 board. The 911 Vermilion Valley goes beyond county boundaries and is servicing citizens outside of. So, there's a difference there too.
And technically, statutorily, for each program, it's up to the mental health board to make a recommendation on the programs. Like Melinda will make recommendations to the public health board on their programs. But it's up to them to submit, when they submit their annual budget, they're doing that in conjunction with the programs that they're planning on running with those. This is the budget we'll need in order to administer these programs. And technically, even though it's the board that's approving the levy, technically you're approving those programs as well. That's how it's written in the statute. That's what you're required to do. So the statutes kind of tie you together. There is no way to just be like,
And if you want to go to Springfield and try to change that structure, I don't make light of it, but the reality is it's a complex arrangement. Okay,
So do we gotta raise the rent if we get a new building?
I don't know. I think we need to sit back and recalibrate. Maybe the expenses on a new building will be less than on the old building, and
That's,
maybe they would go down.
What is the rent now for each of them?
we're not making the rent adjustable for them. They're,
no. We haven't adjusted the rent for them in
I'm not
a
saying-
very long time. It's about 70,000 for public health, it's about 5,000 for mental health, and it's about 50,000 for IHR. And Joe's here, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just saying approximately.
And that's-
70,000, 5,000, and 50,000?
Based off the square footage that they use within the buildings.
Is that about right, Joe?
Well, I'm only about 25,000.
Are you at 25?
Yeah, 25,000, 5,000.
5,000,
I think Melinda's 70. Well, Melinda might be about 50,000.
hold
The
on
whole
one
thing
second, I'll tell you
together is
exactly what it
80,000.
is.
I'm sorry?
All three of us together is 80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Melinda's closer to 50.
Okay, hold on a second. Melinda's at 55. Well, no, hold on a second, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Excuse me one second.
And
so regardless, I mean, even if you raise the rent out there, all they're gonna do is wanna raise the levy, which is gonna
Yeah.
mean more taxes.
So, yes, Joe's at 25,
Well,
mental health is at
okay.
6,500, and public health is at
within the limits that they
54,500.
could, you're right.
Joe,
Yeah.
is your space maintained by the county maintenance employees?
Yes.
It would cost you that and more for one maintenance employee.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You got really cheap rent.
Yeah.
Now, and
Well,
public
you-
health same way, they could not afford it, period.
And now that we have the contract services out there for custodial, we're paying quite a bit more for the health and education building than we
Yeah.
ever have before.
And that's just figuring one employee's salary.
Yeah.
We're not throwing in all the payroll taxes, the workers' comp, the unemployment, the pension,
No.
And I fully
the
intend,
group health insurance.
when we get to the
It's-
point we know what we're doing, we'll sit down with all three of those groups and say, here's what's reasonable. Is there places we can reduce costs and come up
Mike,
with,
when they do the phase 3 or the schematic and that, that's just their rendition of what they think we need, or is it gonna be like that initial drawing that we had?
that initial drawing was just putting something on paper. It was more, the intent of that was showing the clustering of the programs to get efficiencies and that sort of thing. A schematic will be that refined, and I've talked to Dave and Neil after the meeting, making sure they set with primarily Chris and Melinda and their staff to make sure. You know, Melinda raised the issue, what about storage? Well, you know, they don't have any massive storage area in that building, but the question is, do they need it? And somebody even mentioned, well, could some of that storage be off-site? We have, and yes, they agreed. I mean, is there other things that are in there that we don't need? There is no maintenance area, there's no maintenance shop built into it. And I don't think there needs to be. Don's not gonna agree with me.
We gotta do something.
Well,
Well, I'll tell you what, I really hope we sooner or later get away from using the basement, over at the jail as a storage facility. I know we move a lot of things over there from time to time, but I hope we get away from that, because I have a hunch that space is gonna be utilized for something else in the future. Am I off base there, Bill?
No, yeah, we don't wanna fill it all the way up.
No.
Just one question, I noticed that the enormous cost is how they did the 19,000 times the 225 per foot. That to me, right there, seems a little, way outrageous.
That's the right.
what,
I mean, okay, just
square foot cost or
the square foot cost, you know, just being around building a house in that, the most I've seen was 125. Now,
for residential?
For residential, now, I don't know if the prevailing wage is gonna kill that right there, or,
You don't know?
well, I know it'll add a cost,
You
but,
bet. And
you know.
there's a difference in commercial and residential. Materials, labor's obviously a big part of it, a code,
well, that's why, okay, I'm gonna bring
building
this up again.
codes, accessibility.
I've talked to the Sullivans out there, and they go by the same codes. They have to go by the same ADA stuff, building those buildings out there, because their doctor's office is in there, and then. Now, that was built a lot cheaper than what we're being quoted here. Now, I'm just bringing that to the forefront here.
And there's a big difference in the contractor that does not use union labor and what we as a public entity are required to do.
From the cost out there to this cost, there is $3 million.
Bill, all I can tell you is, when we get to the point we have a design, we're gonna put it out for bids.
Okay, that's.
We're gonna get the best cost we can from reputable, reliable contractors. But there are some contractors that won't mess with
I know.
public entities,
That's all.
and some can't, and some won't. And a lot of it has to do with prevailing wage. A lot of it has to do with various
And
things.
that is a big, big difference.
Oh, huge. Huge. But, there again, if we wanna change that, I'll give you the address in Springfield, but. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the bills except me?
I've got one question for Don. I was looking at this, electric bill, and I don't know if you guys, anybody in Pontiac here has got their little notice in the mail about why are the Pontiac wants 71 cents a kilowatt and we're doing it for, is it just what they contracted, or, I mean, this is 66, I think.
It's contract.
Yeah, I know, but
I don't
such a
know.
big difference.
I haven't handled it. No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just,
You're talking about the aggregation the city's
Yes.
doing?
Right.
Yeah, this is completely set. For instance, the city gets a rate very similar to that for their facilities,
right.
sewer plant things, because of volume. That's what it amounts to.
Well, they're talking about the city of Pontiac residents, and they're talking 72 cents. And even my bill is at 71.95, which,
No, it's not. It was until the 1st of June.
well, then I'll look at my bill, so.
Please do, because I've had,
I
I
looked
don't
at
know
it.
why people think I have anything to do with the city of Pontiac, but I've had more phone calls about this aggregation, and I just knew it was a good deal because I understand the process. The voters in Pontiac voted 5-6 years ago to look at aggregation, and they did, and they got a 2-year contract and got us good rates better than Con Ed. Then, the bidding process, Con Ed was the low one. They just went through that process again. And yeah, you're .07195, but it goes to something above 722, which is the aggregated, the guaranteed rate for 2 years. It goes up, and it goes up again in October. It's a 6-month, the ICC has approved 2 6-month increments. Now, if Con Ed's rates take a nosedive in that second year, it's not a good deal. Last time that happened was, so, yeah.
I just wanted.
But large
So
Interlake, Caterpillar, they get better rates than you and I do, and we do because of volume. Those are all negotiated.
Okay, I just.
Can I have a motion to pay, oh, I'm sorry, Darrell?
Motion to pay the bills.
Thank you. Second by Mays, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn, oh, excuse me, public comment? Motion to adjourn. Oh, wait,
I can FOIA it, no matter.
no, please don't, just ask.
No, I will, thanks.
Well, my only comment, it's not necessary, but it causes time and effort. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Darrell, seconded. Mays, all in favor? Opposed, same sign. Thank you.